A blockbuster in the NFL less than a week before the draft. The Giants are sending Pro Bowl defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals. In return, John Harbaugh and the G-men get the 10th overall pick. They now own 5 and 10. Lawrence fills a massive hole on a Cincinnati defense that finished 30th in points allowed last season. Matt Miller has more.
With 2 selections in the first 10 picks of the first round, the Giants are loaded with draft capital to build a team around Jackson Dart and for new head coach John Harbaugh. At number 5 overall, everything I'm hearing says the team is likely to go with a defensive playmaker, Sonny Styles from Ohio State, or his running mate, safety, Caleb Downs. Both players are expected to be captains at the next level. The football IQ and athletic ability is off the charts. Now, I have been told don't rule out Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame here, but it sounds like the Giants will go defense at pick number 5. Now, what makes this trade so great? The Giants love Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. I'm told they've spent more time with him than any club in the NFL over the past year. Number 5 overall, that's too rich for Tyson, but 10 is the expected range for the Arizona State wide receiver. So now you can build around quarterback Jackson Dart with Tyson and give John Harbaugh the defensive assets he needs with Styles or Downs at number 5.
Are trading Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals for the 10th overall pick, and that's according to multiple reports. The move comes after Lawrence. He requested a trade earlier this month. Lawrence is a 2-time second-team All-Pro, a 3-time Pro Bowler. He only recorded half a sack last season. That was the lowest total of his career. We're now joined by CBS Sports draft expert Ryan Wilson as we sit on the doorstep of the NFL draft and a change in the draft order after the Bengals bowed out of the first round in exchange for a 3-time Pro Bowler, Dexter Lawrence. When we hear this news, you think of Dexter Lawrence still having gas in the tank, being a core member of the Giants interior, and now he's off to Cincinnati. I want to get your initial reaction when you heard of the trade, but also what was given up in return.
Hey, Kiana, good to see you. And I was shocked, flabbergasted, and any other adjective you can think of, not because Dexter was traded, because we got the feeling that he was all out on New York. And a lot of his teammates had since left the organization. We know he wanted more money. That part didn't necessarily surprise me. But the fact that it was a number 10 overall pick and the fact that it was the Cincinnati Bengals, who aren't one to be proactive in a lot of arenas. And a lot of times we've talked about players that wanted to leave Cincinnati because they weren't paid what they thought they were worth. All that together made this immensely shocking to me. But here's the thing, you and I were just talking about this before we came on air. The number 10 pick sounds rich, but you are getting, when he is locked in, one of the best players in the NFL. And if the Bengals thought that at 10, the player that they were targeting, almost certainly going to be on defense, wasn't going to be there, whether it's Reuben Bain Jr., Arvell Reese, Sonny Styles, even Caleb Downs. And they said, you know what? We know what Dexter Lawrence can be when he is locked in and focused and healthy. Let's trade the pick for that. Let's pay him and let's move on and worry about the rest of the draft, because now we have the center of our defense locked in.
It's a good point that you're making right there, because they're betting on a guarantee rather than a what if, say the player that they're looking for at that number 10 spot would not be there. But like you said, that is very interesting when you think about the Bengals being an organization that maybe doesn't, a nice way to say it, pay players what they want to be paid, but getting active in the trade market ahead of the NFL draft. But nonetheless, now that the Giants own the 5th and 10th overall pick, it doesn't change just the draft for the G-men, but I feel like it also changes other teams' strategies now. How do you see this top 10 playing out?
Yeah, things are getting crazy. And again, you and I were talking about this. This feels like a pretty take a shot in the dark type of draft in terms of the top 10. We don't know. So this is my mock draft that's coming out Monday. You're getting a sneak peek, Kiana, because I like you. This is what I would do if I were the GM of all 32 teams. This is how I would see the top 10 unfolding. And here's the other thing about Dexter Lawrence, quickly going back to that. You talked about knowing the enemy you know, as opposed to taking a gamble on maybe a pick at 10. 2022, the Giants had 2 picks in the top 10, pick 5 and pick 7, to Kayvon Thibodeau and Evan Neal. That hasn't quite worked out as much as Giants fans want. This time around, this is what I would do. I would take Francis Mauigoa, the right tackle out of Miami, at 5. You can play him at guard. They have huge needs at guard right now, and you can move him out to tackle in a year or two if you so desire. And then at 10, we're getting Jackson Dart some more help, not in the form of offensive line, but in the form of wide receiver Carnell Tate. We do know that Joe Shane was meeting with Jordan Tyson out west, the Arizona State wide receiver who ran privately for teams yesterday and checked all the boxes there. So whether it's Carnell Tate, if he's gone, you take Jordan Tyson. Now you're getting an offensive lineman to help protect Jackson Dart, who is sometimes his own worst enemy, and you're getting a wide receiver to help Malik Neighbors. The only other thing that will be crazier, and this may happen in real life, Kiana, if it's Jeremiah Love, the running back at 5, and then Carnell Tate or Jordan Tyson at 10, running back wide receiver for your young quarterback in Jackson Dart.
That could be very interesting, seeing how that shapes out, opting to go for maybe some skill players outside of maybe a tackle to protect their investment in Jackson Dart. But it's also very interesting how you mentioned, the Giants looking to maybe protect Dart while also giving him another playmaker across their 2 first-rounders. But now that makes me think, Ryan, how do you envision them maybe trying to find a replacement? And it's lack of a better term because there is no real replacement for Dexter Lawrence. But how do you see them trying to fill that void, and where does that happen in the draft?
Yeah, I'm laughing because Giants fans are so excited about getting that number 10 pick. They forgot about the fact that Dexter Lawrence is making his way to the Midwest. So, look, they drafted Darius Alexander last year out of Toledo. He was a 3rd-round pick, little older prospect. He's going to have to step up, as is everyone else in that defensive line room. But here's the good news. The Giants pick 5, they pick 10, they also pick 37 before they go in a little hiatus before they get back on the clock in the 4th round. There's a real possibility that Peter Woods, the defensive lineman out of Clemson, could be there. He was my number 1 player in my big board over the summer. Clemson didn't have the season, nor did Peter Woods, that they were hoping for. He could slip a little bit. I think he's a 1st-round talent. We'll see if NFL teams agree in a few days. The other name is Caleb Banks, the defensive lineman out of Florida, 6'6", 330, 35-inch arms. He might be the only man in the greater United States that might be bigger than Dexter Lawrence. His issue is injuries. That's it. Because when he is playing, Kiana, he is unstoppable. He probably has a little more juice than Dexter Lawrence, at least coming out of Clemson. He's that special. He could be there as well at 37. So those are 2 guys that could immediately get you 65% of the way to Dexter Lawrence, and then the teammates around him in that DL room would have to help out. But here's the deal, man. Offensive line or Jeremiah Love, wide receiver, and then you get a defensive lineman at 37. I think Giants fans can live with that at the thought of losing Dexter Lawrence as the exchange part of that deal.
You know what? I'm hoping that somewhere, somehow, the Giants brass are flipping the channels and they're stopping on CBS Sports HQ, listening to CBS Sports draft analyst, also GM Ryan Wilson. And hey, maybe they take a page out of your book and take this route. I mean, certainly could make Giants fans happy, but even while maybe the brass is watching us, you guys can watch CBSSports.com and check out your mock draft right there, because I got a sneak peek, so we got to let everyone else see it. But as always, Ryan Wilson, always bringing the best, and he'll be bringing you more from the NFL draft. That's on Thursday. But let's talk a little bit more about this draft. Now 6 teams with multiple 1st-round picks in this year's draft. The Giants adding themselves to the list with 5 and 10 alongside the Jets, Browns, Chiefs, Dolphins, and Cowboys. Could there potentially even be more with some moves going on during draft time? Hey, more trades. You never know what could happen. It's the NFL draft. Anything is possible.
Hot tub's busted.
Sports HQ, the Giants are trading Dexter Lawrence to the Bengals for the 10th overall pick. That's according to multiple reports. The move comes after Lawrence requested a trade earlier this month. Lawrence is a 2-time second-team All-Pro and 3-time Pro Bowler. He only recorded half a sack last season. That was the lowest total of his career. And to dive a little bit more into this trade, we're joined by CBS Sports NFL analyst Lige Douzable and Emory Hunt. As Dexter Lawrence, hey, he gets his wish, fellas, and gets his way out of the Meadowlands. But Emory, I want to come to you first, because we know the Giants, they were trying to do what they could to keep a player like Dexter Lawrence with the Giants. But the right offer, it came in, and I want to get your initial reaction to the move.
Shocked, because I was at the Joe Shane press conference earlier in the week where he came out and opened up the press conference by saying, hey, I know the big story is about Dexter Lawrence. We've had communications. Things are going well. They're in a good place. And then when I got home, about 30 minutes later, everything went to you know what, and here we are right now talking about him being traded. So shocked is an understatement, because that's an integral piece to that defensive front. That makes everything around that defense work. And to lose that type of player up front, now you have a gaping hole, pun intended, on the interior of your defensive line. And now you have to find someone that can give you at least something similar to that from Dexter Lawrence that you just gave away to the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, people may say this is a lot of draft capital for Dexter Lawrence, but if I'm the Bengals, I'm making this move 10 out of 10 times. This is a massive move for the Cincinnati Bengals. And Keanu Emery, it's all about maximizing the time that Joe Shiesty has at quarterback. You saw last year, he got kind of frustrated how things were going after the injury and coming back. The defense has really struggled mightily. They've tried to revamp it this offseason, bringing in Jonathan Allen and Boye Mafe, but boy, do they have the right man in the middle. I actually was just talking to his new teammate, who was his former teammate, B.J. Hill, who was a D tackle for Cincinnati Bengals, and boy, was he excited to get back with his former teammate. When I talk to interior offensive linemen in the NFL, the name that is most feared among defensive tackles is this guy right here, Dexter Lawrence. And I know people call him Sexy Dexy, but his game is anything but sexy. He's a physical brawler in the middle of that defense. So, like Emery, I'm shocked that the Giants moved off of him. But if I'm the Bengals, people may say the number 10 overall pick is a lot of draft capital, but he makes everybody better because you cannot just block Dexter Lawrence with one guy. You have to put minimum 4 hands on this guy each and every play, which frees up other people. The Cincinnati Bengals defense got significantly better with this trade.
That's exactly where I wanted to go, Lige, because like you said, his nickname might be Sexy Dexy, but it ain't sexy how he plays. He plays nasty on the field, but just how much better does this make this Bengals defense, who struggled in a number of categories defensively last season?
Yeah, Kiana, you can name them. They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the ball getting thrown over their heads. So when you have a guy in the middle like Dexter Lawrence, he's going to plug up the middle of that defense, which is going to allow those 2 young linebackers who were rookies last year to free flow over the top. And you see their numbers right there on the defensive side of the ball. They were 30th in points per game, yardage per game, 31st, and last in yards per play given up. Those young corners on the backside, the quarterback is not going to be able to hold the ball as long because Dexter Lawrence is going to get double, which means Boye Mafe is going to get one-on-one. B.J. Hill is going to get one-on-one on the other side of D tackle. So guys are going to be able to come after them in waves. And now you have Jonathan Allen too. So now you have 3 quality defensive tackles that can really get after the passer. Look for Al Golden to play a little bit more man coverage because he went to a zone coverage concept last year, which he didn't do at Notre Dame. And I think it didn't really highlight the skill set of their young secondary players. Now with Dexter Lawrence in that middle, the ball's going to have to come out a lot hotter.
I've said this since Ben. If you are strong down your battery, that center, nose tackle, Mike backer, quarterback, running back, you are going to be a fantastic football team. Even free safety, you got to be strong right down the middle. Everything else is cosmetic. They bring in Brian Cook as their free safety coming in from Kansas City, who's a fantastic player. You have Dexter Lawrence. You have Joe Burrow. You have Chase Brown. Now they have to really lock in on their inside linebacker and center position. I know Ted Karras is there. Maybe he improved there a little bit, maybe in the draft, but that's where the Bengals foundation has to start. I thought they did a great job in getting Dexter Lawrence because we know, like Leger talked about, you lock up that interior, one-on-one opportunities on the outside, that ball is going to have to come out quick. And if you got guys coming off the edge, they'll have a team meeting at the quarterback. So getting someone right in the middle of your defense is huge for your team overall success. And the Bengals have a lot of key pieces already in place to find themselves working back up that AFC North standings as we get closer to the season and hopefully for season's end.
Okay, so most certainly boding well for the Bengals, but what about the Giants now? Because you're missing a guy like Dexter Lawrence. You're talking about having a strong person right there in the center of that D-line. But Giants, for what it's worth, Hayden, they now have the 5th and the 10th overall picks in next week's draft. Lige, so where do the Giants go from here, and just how, if they even can you find a place to find a person to replace a guy like Lawrence in this draft?
And that's the question, Kiana. There's nobody that's going to be able from day one to replace what Dexter Lawrence is going to do for the Cincinnati Bengals up the middle of that defense for the New York Giants. But with the added draft capital, right, I look for them to potentially go with a pass rusher or a linebacker at the 5th overall pick. And at that 10th pick, right, maybe even potentially trade down. A guy that me and Emery were talking about, Peter Woods, makes a lot of sense. The only thing is he's a different body type in this 3-4 Denard Wilson's defense. He played mainly probably that 4-eye-3 technique where they're looking for a nose tackle. A guy that, you know, that I like but isn't Dexter Lawrence. It's Caden McDonald at the back of the first round if the Giants were to trade back. He's more of a first and second down player. He's going to help you in that run defense. But the difference between him and Dex is more athletic and can get after the passer. So there's no player in this draft that you would say could come in and give you what Dexter Lawrence is giving you as far as production in the middle of that defense. What you're hoping to do is with this added draft capital, surround pieces around to maybe make that loss not as significant that Dexter Lawrence is now gone and with the Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah, I love it. Listen, here's the thing. Now we're talking about how they can maneuver within the draft because my number one nose tackle is Caden McDonald. My number two is Christian Mill out of Georgia. So there's nose tackles that can help you out. But like Leger talked about, you might have to get a little bit more creative with that 10th pick. But now you have prime real estate that you can use that to move down a little bit and perhaps make a deal with the devil, trade with the Cowboys, get another first-round pick. So I trust John Harbaugh to do the right thing. One thing I know about him during his tenure at Baltimore, they were always able to lock in along the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. So 5 and 10 could equal 6 for them on offense and 6 on defense because I expect them to get 2 tremendous playmakers with both selections.
Nonetheless, a big loss regardless for the Giants and losing a player like Dexter Lawrence, but that is a big come up for the Bengals. As we've all mentioned here, this is a unit, a defensive unit that has struggled in 2025 and now get a major upgrade for 2026. Fellas, appreciate you guys stopping by with that insight. Appreciate that. Taking a look at the most losses in NFL history with 34 or more points. The Bengals on this list twice, both coming over the last 2 years. Certainly needing a little help defensively, and hey, they got just what they were asking for.
Just stress sweating through my third set of scrubs.